Hello everyone, welcome to the Blender tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to create a lightsaber effect inside of Blender. As a source footage for demonstration purposes, I have used this baseball player here. It's from Video Copilot, and I'll put the link to this project file into the description. And let's get started. In Blender, first of all, I've aligned the camera with the Z-axis. I'm going to use the Blender internal renderer, and I'm going to set the frame rate to the frame rate of our source footage, which is 29.97. Next, I'm going to set up our camera to display our video in the background. Add image only from camera view, movie clip, and open lightsaber baseball clip and select camera clip. And as you can see right now, the video is stretched. That's because I have set my resolution to a HD setting 16:9, and the video is actually 4:3. You could either stretch it or you could crop the image so that you lose something in the top and the low end of the video, or you could fit it, which would create black bars on each side. I've chosen fit as an option, but you can use whatever you want. Okay. Now on to the creation of the lightsaber. I'm going to add a cylinder, scale it down, about so, and rotate it around the x-axis by pressing R, X, and then 0 for 90 degrees. And it's way too small, so I'm going to scale it along the y-axis, S and Y, until it has a size that looks kind of like a lightsaber. Could be a little bit slimmer, so I press S and Shift Y to scale only along as the X and the Z axis, and this looks okay. Okay, that was a bit nonsense because I'll have to scale it to fit the spaceball bat anyway. This size would look like a good lightsaber, but since I have to scale to fit the spaceball bat, I'll have it around that size. And now I'm going to set the origin point, that's this little orange dot right here, of the object to the base of our plate. Tap into edit mode, deselect everything, hit B for box selection and select all these dots, and as you can see right here, I've just selected the upper ones to make it so you select all with box select, activate this button right here, limit selection to visible, and that way you can select all vertices, even those who are invisible because they are behind the object. Now we have selected everything. We press Shift Z cursor to select it. Now we have the cursor exactly at the base of our plate. And in object mode I choose origin, set origin to 3D cursor. Now if I scaled the object, it will scale around this cursor, and if I rotate it, it will rotate around this origin point. That's pretty good because that's roughly how a lightsaber blade is going to move. Now at the base I add a circle shaped empty, and I'm going to rotate it around the x-axis 90 degrees. Scale it down and press Control A to apply the scale and Control A to apply the rotation. I'm doing this just as a security measure because now the scale that we've just set and the rotation that we've just set are the default of the object, so we won't get any freaky results later on, because that might happen if you don't apply the scale. And what I'm going to use this empty for is as sort of a control point to move the base of the lightsaber around, and I'm hitting Shift D and creating another one that's going to be used to move the top side of the lightsaber around. Let me quickly align the circle perfectly with the top side. Go into edit mode, deselect everything with A and box select with B the top ones. Still in edit mode, hit Shift S, cursor to selected, and now select the upper circle, Shift S, selection to cursor. Now those circles are perfectly aligned, and let me rename them from empty to base for the base empty, and this top for the top empty. Now, how do we make it so that these empties control our lightsaber blade? For the base one, we simply select the lightsaber, shift and right click the base empty and press Ctrl P, set parent to. Now we can move the entire lightsaber around with this, but it doesn't really, the top doesn't stay in its place, and to fix that we select the lightsaber, go to the constraints panel, add object constraint and stretch 2. As a target we select the top empty. I think I've applied the scale and let me undo that quickly. I have to that's exactly that kind of freaky result that I was talking about earlier. Let me select the cylinder because I've forgotten to apply the scale, the rotation. Control A, apply rotation to this one. Now everything should have its default rotation like that. Stretch 2 and top, and now it's all good. Now we can move the top around, and if we move the base around, the top stays in the same place. Now as you can see, the cylinder gets thicker and thinner if we stretch it. To counter that, we select volume variation to none. Right here, volume. And now if we move that around, it stays at the exact same volume. Now now we have to adjust the position of our lightsaber to match the position of the baseball bat in our video. That's best done with automatic keyframe activated, that's down here. And now for every frame we'd have to select the base, move the base around, select the top, move the top around, and you can do that in wireframe mode to see a little better what you're doing. And let me move 2 frames forward, readjust the position, 2 frames forward. I'm just trying to demonstrate something to get the best results. You really should adjust every keyframe and not just every second or every third keyframe. Anyways, as you can see down here, there are those yellow lines, and those represent keyframes in the video. And as you can see, the lightsaber moves along quite nicely. And now there's one important thing that I want to show you that should show up in the next couple of frames. Here you can see it clearly. As you can see, because the baseball bat is now closer to the camera, the scale of our plate or cylinder doesn't cover up the whole baseball bat anymore. We could, of course, scale it up, but that would mean we'd also have to insert keyframes for the scale and so on. So another way would be to select the top one. And what does happen when the baseball bat comes closer to the camera? If you look at this, we would have to move it up on the Z-axis. Press G and Z, and then bring it up and move it back into position. And it could get a little bit closer, like so. And now here's a frame that's completely off. And now, as you can see, again, now this is something different. Here, the baseball bat, it comes closer to the camera, but the main reason why it's wider than our lightsaber that we have here is because of the motion blur. So we can fix that later on with motion blur of our own. And now we bring it down again because let's go to 1. Set completely to 0 again. On this frame, because it's completely sideways to the camera again, I'm bringing the baseball bat down from the Z-axis again, and then try to align it with the right length. And let me stop right there. And now if you press A, you can watch through the animation. Let me find the last frame, which should be around... the video ends right here. on frame 78, so press E when you're hovering over the timeline to set the end frame there. Now let's go to, let's say, this frame, and let's take care of the rendering of the lightsaber, because right now if we render we will only get this, a lightsaber that's completely black because we don't have a light source, and a gray background because that's what our background is set to. First of all, we don't want to have, or actually, because we're going to use screen later on to overlay our lightsaber, we want a black background, but we want the material of our lightsaber, let me just call it light. Oops. I have light, set it to complete white and shadeless, and now we get our lightsaber like this. And now it's time to head into the node editor. You can see we have our render layer and our composite output. Let me add a viewer node by Control Shift left clicking on this node. And now we are going to add the motion blur that I've talked about. Filter, it's called vector blur, and we input our image, the Z pass into this Z opening, but the speed is missing. Why is the speed missing? Because we have to activate under render layer. This render layer is right here. We select our render layer and we activate the vector pass. Now we have the speed. And right here there's not much motion blur. Here should be some. You can see motion blur, but it's way too much. That's because if we head back into our video, into video mode, you can see, or maybe right now you can't see, but if you remember, there wasn't much motion blur even though the spaceball bat is swinging really fast, and that's probably because the camera was set with a very low or a very high shutter speed to avoid motion blur. Now to adjust the motion blur so that it fits, we need the image first of all, the video first of all. We need to scale it so it fits the render size, and remember to set it to the same mode that you've used for your in your 3D view. And we simply screen the, we screen the motion blurred lightsaber over this, and 0.2 motion blur of 0.2 looks to be quite right. Here it starts to get too little. Yeah, I'd say 0.2 is good. And to make it look a little bit better, increase the sample size. To get a bit of a smoother result. But right now it's just a white, just a white spot or white plate, and we of course want that lightsaber look, so we add a blur effect, filter blur. We want the fast Gaussian blur and blur it a little bit by 3. in each direction. Duplicate it. Duplicate it and input the blur right here, and this is going to get us the big glow of 30. And now if we color, mix and add, these two together, we can see a nice glow effect starting to appear. And just to get a sharper edge, this is the right, no, that's the right one here. Here it's blurry, and here we get a little bit of a sharper edge. Without a motion blur you can probably see it better. Here the edge is kind of blurry, and we have a sharper edge again because I've added the unblurred image with just the vector blur again above it, but right now it's just a white glow. How do we add the color? To do this we add another mix node, color, and we set it to color right here. And now if we have the big glow and select a color, let's say perfect green, and add this into the actual add node, we get this as a result. And the nice thing about this, we can just, if we want a different color, let's say blue or a red or purple or whatever you want, you can just directly select it at the color wheel. Don't forget to input the right one. So once again, let me move this up. We have our render layer, we add the motion blur, we blur it again to get this kind of glow. The biggest glow, we use the color node to add our lightsaber glow color, and then we add those glows back together, and in the end we screen it over our source footage. The next step, which I'm going to show you in part 2, sorry, is, of course, you can see right here the blade seems to be in front of his head when actually it has to be in the back. And we're going to do that by using the masking tool in Blender. And that's what I'm going to show you next time. Until then, have fun and enjoy Blender. I hope you learned something, and goodbye.